My people, what up, though? We back with another episode of All Black Men Need Therapy. My name is Chief.
And I'm Bell.
And here we go again. We back with another episode. Today, we're going to attempt to tap into a little bit more vulnerability. So what's been going on is we've come up with these topics or things we wanted to discuss, and what happens is we convince ourselves we're going deep, but in actuality, we're very, very, very surface level with it.
We got the governor on. Like when you run a car, you can't go over 68.
Right.
Then start shaking. Shut down.
So this is going to be an attempt. So bear with us as we.
Yeah, and I don't even know if it's. I don't think it's an attempt for us to get emotional. I think we're gonna be vulnerable. I don't think it's gonna be an attempt on our vulnerability. I think it's gonna be an attempt to push ourselves past our comfort level of vulnerability.
Yeah, I think what has to happen is perhaps you and I need to target each other in a sense where I kind of need to push it out of you and so on and so
that's
forth.
fine.
Like, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know. So as we go through these things, again, we flow. We have a general outline of what we want to talk about, and then we kind of just let the conversation take its course. So that's where we're at.
But it probably should be noted that we decided not to write this one.
Right. We wanted to come up here and completely wing this one. There's not even an outline for this one, so.
Yeah, and wing it in the sense that not wing it like, just make shit up as we go. Wing it as in like raw emotion and tap it into personal experiences. Like, I don't know how emotional this is gonna get. So like they may be listening to this and at the end they're like, yeah, niggas didn't even cry. I didn't do shit.
Right.
But no, guys, we so back up. So after last week's episode, obviously talking about Where's the Love, that dropped, and we got a really good response on that. It just got me to thinking, guys. Like everything I was talking about was very general, and kind of like what's the saying? Paint with a broad stroke or some shit like that.
I don't know.
Trying to paint everybody with a broad stroke, and I realized I'm like, man, you did this to tap into some of your challenges that you're, as an adult, now identifying. So I said, you know what? Let's talk about depression, right? This is something that affects every black man. In fact, here's some statistics on that.
So since you're about to go into your story, I'll give the stats, right? So according to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Office of Minority Health, which I didn't even know there was a branch specifically for minorities, but according to them, the percentage of the population with serious psychological distress among persons 18 years of older, right? So when it comes to black men, I mean, granted, it's the entire country's population, 2.6% of us are dealing with serious psychological distress versus white men is 2.7, so we're not that far off. One number that kind of struck me was black women. 3.7% of them are dealing with serious psychological distress as compared to 3.4% of white women. And then there's so the total is 3.2 black men and women, and then there's 3.1 black and or white men and women, which is pretty interesting. So when you look at it like that, you think of, serious psychological distress often leads to suicide. So in 2019, suicide was the second leading cause of death for African American ages 15 to 24. The death rate from suicide for African American men was 4 times greater than it was for African American women. However, get this one, African American women were 70% more likely to attempt suicide as compared to non-Hispanic white females. How bugged out is that? So black people, we got work to do. And let's not be afraid to reach out, because we're harming ourselves at an alarming rate.
So what I thought was important for us to do, for me, this also should be noted, like, I literally text Chief at 5 something this morning and was like, we're doing depression next episode, let's record it sooner than later. And kudos to him, he was like, well, shit, I'm free at 6. So here we are.
Yeah, word.
But no, so this was prompted because, like I said, recapping last week's episode, reflecting like Chief and I spoke about, and just thinking about like how depression has shown up in my life, right? So I think it should be noted too, sometimes, and I'll speak for myself, but I would imagine a lot of you guys feel this way as well. Sometimes we don't categorize it as depression, right? We could just be, we may say, hey, I'm just not, like, I'm down, like I'm just not feeling good or something like that. Like the experience I'm going to talk about, well, my first time experiencing depression was in college, but that's a case in point, I didn't know I was depressed until now I look back as an adult.
Right. So I think it's also important that you kind of mention how this came about, and I think, you know, you got the group text with your homies from college. They're shooting a breeze, but I think it's important to, like, in the group text, it's mostly, you know, guys talking shit, laughing, jokes here and there, ranking on each other, whatever the case may be. But you pulled something out of that in that group chat with all the jokes and shit. You're like, yo, this is real. This is something I need to talk about. So again, as much as you're not leaning on them from a therapeutic perspective, you're still pulling that from the conversation. So I think it's important, fellas, again, to self-assess, and even in those simple conversations that don't seem like they're much, look what you can pull out of it and where it may take you.
Yeah, and not be afraid to reflect, because that was where it came from. This one, again, we were texting a group chat, there's 10 of us total in the chat, my old teammates, at 5 a.m, and it started off just talking shit like we always do, and then it got deep. You know what I'm saying? And not deep like from when you look at it like, damn, like they're getting philosophical and they're in touch with their feelings. Not deep like that. But one of my teammates who played in the league for 13 years, he talks about how he couldn't get past 2 plays in his college career that haunted him for the rest of his career. So now mind you, 13-year veteran in the NFL. So he, by all standards, has exceeded all expectations in terms of tenure. But there were two plays that he was talking about that he just, and it was a vulnerable moment for him because he had never really said that out loud, at least to the group. And I was like, wow, because these are basically 2 plays that end up defining him that year. But nonetheless, that's why I was like, man, this shit is so good that we're reflecting and we're talking. And I'm like, you know what? Let me share some of my experience with the people. So,
did you share it in the group chat?
No. I didn't think that was a forum. I didn't share, because I'm going to talk about the first time. And like Chief doesn't even know the story. Like I'm telling it for the first time right now. Like,
have you spoken to anyone about it?
I haven't referenced the period as depression when I spoke about it. Mm-hmm. What I referenced it as, like, that was the mile marker moment when I realized that I could make a change. You know what I'm saying? And I'll explain that in a second. But I never talk about it as depression.
Okay.
So, but so I got 2 stories. I'm gonna talk about when I was in college, and then I'm gonna talk about another one when I was out of college and like stepped foot into entrepreneurship. What time period you referencing?
Obviously, we again, like we mentioned my brother's situation last week, and again, it was very surface level. Didn't really get a chance to dive into it and talk about how I was feeling and what was really going through me at the time. And I got one from college. You know, I remember I was injury plagued, so that shit sucked, and really it took me a while to kind of dig myself out of that one. But I think there's a couple of moments that I can define as depression. But I've worked on myself so much that I believe I'm so headstrong that now there isn't pretty much anything that can pull me back into that dark spot. You know what I'm saying?
But it doesn't have to be dark though.
Right, but again, you know how I handle situations. Like when shit happens, it's like if anybody is going to handle it, P's going to be like, you know, be the one who kind of like just brushes it off and kind of keep pushing. You know what I'm saying? So I think I've kind of like trained myself to look adversity in the face like, I can't lose. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Ray Dirt. Shout out to Dirt. I can't lose. You know what I mean? I'm gonna win. So that we can bounce back and forth.
Yeah. So I'll go first. So I'll paint the picture for you guys. Like I said, I played college football, and I was a running back. And, you know, when I got to camp, I wasn't as big or strong, I should say, as I probably should have been. So I ended up redshirt, and then plus, like I said, I couldn't figure out the playbook and all of that. But anybody who's ever redshirted in any sport and at a high level in college, you get better, right? Because you go up against the best, right? So if it's a football team, or if you play football, you go up against the one offense or the one defense, depending on what side of the ball you are on. And I got better, so I was doing well, and so I redshirted, and then my first year playing, I still slow getting the speed of the game, but I played every time I played well, and then I became a starter, and then I got hurt, right? And that's not where the depression set in, because I think that year I had the longest run from scrimmage, and that was like tied for the second longest run at the time all time, so I was feeling good, right? So now, just follow me. I'm going into my redshirt sophomore year. So technically, this is my third year on campus, right? I redshirted my first year, played the next year, redshirt sophomore year. So now I'm strong, I'm fast, my mind is right, and I got the playbook down, right? So I'm like, can't nothing stop me. So first 2 practices in camp, like I just wasn't getting the touches, and like I said, I'm a running back, so there's 3 components, right? You got to block, catch, and run. So every time I went in, it was always a pass play, right? I wasn't even catching the ball at the backfield. Then I was like, you know what? Let's not harp on when you're not getting the ball. Let's just make sure every time you get the ball, you make it count. So, and the people on my team, that's what came up in the conversation today too. We talked about how that camp was epic, and what made that camp epic was it was a freshman that came in. Now, remind you, I was a freshman, and when I first got in, and I didn't know the playbook and nothing like that. But this freshman was different. His nickname was Mighty Mouse. Shout out to Terry Corley. But he came in and he did not look like a Division I running back. I can tell you that right now. This dude was probably, and I mean this with all due respect, the size of a 9th grader. Like legit. Very undersized, but fast as lightning. So sure enough, we went at it, right? In a good way. Healthy competition. We was tearing the defense ass up. And to date, they'll you ask anybody, they'll tell you that was the best running back camp ever. And we went at it, and Terry and I were cool. Like there was no animosity between us, nothing like that. But so we finished camp, and I mean it was a phenomenal camp, and I'm like, I gotta get the nod, right? I'm the prototypical size for a running back, 6'2", 212 at the time I was playing at, and I'm fast. I got the playbook down. I'm a vet. Like I gotta get the nod. This is a no-brainer. They gave him the nod. So I'm like, all right, he deserves it. We were going back and forth. It was a coin flip, whatever. But here's where, for me, after this conversation I had, everything changed for me. So my running back coach, we were playing Boston College, and they don't announce the rotation until the day of the game. Like then they announce the starters and they announce the rotation. So when I was playing the year before with the starter, before I got the job, I was going 1 series to 1 series. He get 1 series, I get 1 series, right? And that was fine. My coach told me, he was like, all right, Bell, we doing 2 to 1. I'm like, 2 to 1? He's like, yeah. TC gonna be in for 2 series, you gonna be in for 1. And at that moment, that season was done for me as far as I was concerned. Like it was done. I'm like I felt disrespected. I'm like, how you gonna give me 2 to 1? Like why? Like in my mind at that time, I'm like, he's not better than T Small. Like how are we doing 2 to 1? So I checked out, and I didn't realize it, but I checked out. And like I said, he was undersized, so he got hurt that game. And then I think we played Georgia Tech next or something like that, and I got the starting job, obviously. And they were excited because they're like, all right, now is his time to show us why he feels like he should have been a starter. But when I tell you, I was so absent, even though I was physically there, like I was not there. Like I'm at that game, I'm in the backfield thinking about like what I'm about to eat after the game. Like no bullshit. Like I'm thinking about what girl I'm gonna call. Like it was bad. Like I was just, because I got that information. The way I processed it was, you don't think I'm good enough.
Okay, that makes
Right?
sense.
Like I'm like, you don't think I'm good enough. And then I believed it. And I didn't outwardly believe it. Like I didn't say that, but my actions, because what would have been a perfect case scenario, he went down, I step up, and I bust ass.
It's go time. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
But I was so immature in my thinking because, like I said, I was spent after every practice, like spent, like no energy to do anything because I gave it all I had on the practice field, and I felt like that warranted the starting job. And when I didn't get it, I was devastated. The title of this is called The Pressure, right? As we talked about before, Chief and I were like the out for our family, right? So for me, it was the NFL, and it's like, well, shit, how you going to the league if you can't even play, right? So I went into a dark space, and I'm not even sure I lettered that. Yeah, I probably did because I played special teams, but I didn't get a lot of touches. I didn't get a lot of carries. I mean, a lot of reps. But what I will say is TC was everything they thought he was because he went out to lead the nation in rushing as a freshman. He's a freshman leading rusher in the nation that year. So he was the real deal, right? But I went in a dark place and I couldn't describe what it was. And then you got to and then that's another thing. You go home on the weekends, you go home on a bye week, you got to explain why you ain't playing. They was like, man, Bell, you must have been knocking off the coach's daughter or something. You know what I'm saying? Like when you go home, they didn't understand that there's people that are better than you, period, right? And that wasn't something I was willing to accept then, you know what I mean? But looking back, like that was my first experience with depression. And that went on the whole season, right? The whole season I was checked out. Again, and when I got in, I was, man, I can order some Wingstop, like, or whatever it was at the time. I'm like, I wasn't there. That was my first bout with it. And the one thing the reason why I said when I referenced that, I referenced it as the opportunity to realize when it was time for me to flip the switch. Because fast forward, like I told you, I ended up being an NFL prospect. So fast forward, he went down again the next year. He went down, but this time he went down for the year. And at this time, which was his second year playing, he was leading the whole nation in rushing when he got hurt. Again, this dude was the real deal.
He was official. But you bust their ass after that, though.
Yeah, because I assessed, like we talked about. Mm-hmm. And again, I didn't know it was depression. I did not know it was depression. But by this time, another thing I should mention, and not to take too much time, but I already had changed positions. Like I was like the fifth string wide receiver, but I was part of the rotation, so I was traveling and everything. So it's not like I wasn't traveling, but I was like, I got to make it somehow. And then he went down, and they was like, Bell, you up? So I was like, all right. But when I came up, there was somebody in front of me because I remember I wasn't running back anymore. So then he went down that game, and then I was like, all right, let's go. Like now's your chance to prove it. And God damn it, when I tell you,
my man was out there shining.
But not even before then. The first play they gave me. This is how you know. This is for all the listeners. This is when you know you're about to do something great. When you get the chance you feel like you've been waiting for, and then something happens. So they put me in the game. We down, and they called my play, the one I love. It was like a 26G or something like that.
Nobody knows what that is. They gave the ball.
Yeah, they gave me the ball. I ran to the right, and I saw the opening, and I slipped and fell on third down. On third down.
Stinking ass.
I said, they ain't never about to put me back in this bitch. It's over. Like, it is over. So, but then I got another shot, and I ended up going off, that year. But that was my first bout, man. And then so now when things get grim, I always go back to that spot and just figure out what I can do to elevate myself through it.
So you referenced that to continue the conversation, specific answers to specific questions. When did you realize that moment was depression? Was it in today's conversation?
When I graduated.
When you graduated. So
yeah.
So how long after, maybe what?
5 years.
5 years after that initial point?
Yeah, because that was like 2002 or 3.
So I'm saying, but if you were in season, so it's like 3 years
no,
after
2000.
it happened.
Yeah, 3 years. Yeah,
3 years after it happened.
3 years
So
after it happened.
it took you 3 years to define it and label it as depression.
Yep.
Okay. So one thing you mentioned in the conversation, which I think the people need to hear and assess and really take heed in, is the fact that you have to accept the fact that people are better than you. You said those words or something along those lines. And I think with that, you still have to have confidence.
I wasn't ready to have that conversation then.
And that's why I wanted to mention it, because we're never ready to have those conversations, especially in the midst of being unaware of what you're feeling and labeling those feelings. So I think in everything we do, there's always someone better than you, but you have to find your own lane. And I'll give you a prime example of that scenario regarding me.
Yep.
With the poetry. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a ton of people who are brilliant writers, way better writers than me, way better performers than me, and have won so many different things, right? And I think I put it on my Facebook or Instagram the other day, and it's just like, you know, I may not be in your winner's circle. I may not have all the poetry accolades that you have on stage in terms of the spoken word competition circle.
Yep.
But not many of them have gone to London and performed at the Olympics. You know what I'm saying? Not many of them have been flown international and done what I've done. Right. So I think as much as these people are better than you, you still have an opportunity to create your own lane and believe in yourself and do what you have to do to become successful, which is what you did.
Right.
Wow. Still not understanding exactly what you were experiencing. So you had enough wherewithal within yourself to go, you know what? I can still do this.
Yeah. Somebody told me a long time ago, and this may resonate with some people, may not, whatever. But don't compare, compete. Right? That's what they told me, and that's what I did. And then hear me clear. I wasn't competing with anybody. I wasn't competing against someone. I was competing with myself. Like the essence of competition, right? Competition makes everybody better. So please hear me clear. So I was like, I just got to go out there and win today. Yeah. Literally, that's what I was saying. I was like, I got to win today. That's it. Like, if I go out there, doesn't matter how many times I get the ball, just make it count. And that's all I kept doing. And that was what, like, my saving grace. Because if I would have been like, man, I can't do what he does, I can't do it, I would have been dead in the water.
And I guess, you know, for those who aren't sports people, like we use the sports references because we played sports. We played college football. We actually had the chance to play against each other in college, which was super, super dope. But we use these sports references, and it can be translated into regular life. I think still some of the greatest lessons we've learned have come from being a part of you know, a program, a team, and so on and so forth. So you don't understand the sports analogies, get the life metaphor or the life correlation within the context of it all. So with you now, in terms of depression, would you be able to recognize it in the, like, right now, much sooner than 3 years?
I actually think I'm hypersensitive, believe it or not. I think I'm hypersensitive. Like I tell Lo, I think my turnaround now is like a week.
In terms of what, like going through something bad and recognition?
Yeah.
Okay.
So like I'll look back and I'm like, yo, I think I might have been depressed last week. And she'd be like, what happened? And I'll explain. She's like, nah, that just sounds like a bad week. Like you're not depressed. Like you just had a bad week.
I mean that
you know
could
what I'm
be,
saying?
yeah, that could
and
be.
like I said, I'm hypersensitive now, right? Like I don't go, and God forbid, but I haven't been to that dark place in a while. You know what I'm saying? Like I haven't been there, because I do. Again, and then I'll tell you about the other time, but I can pick up on the signs. You know what I'm saying? Like what
of how and how you're feeling emotionally.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what happened the first time was I felt defeated, literally defeated. Like he beat me, right? I felt defeated, and I felt because of the pressure. And hear me clear too. None of my family said, you need to go make it for us. Nobody ever said that, right? It was implied, but nobody ever said it. But I took that on me. So now I'm like, fuck. Like, what I'm gonna do now?
Right. No, right.
You know what I'm saying? So I was like, what I'm gonna do now? So then I didn't have an answer. So I just kept getting deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper.
And I think with collegiate sports, at least from the football perspective, the depth chart changes so much. So 1 minute you start, and next
Daily.
minute you third string. Next minute you damn about to get a scholarship taken. Next thing you getting the award, the conference award. Like it's crazy how it happens, and I don't know if it happens as much in life or at jobs in terms of like getting promotions and the next guy gets it or whatever. But understand that like the ups and downs of just positional starting in second and third strings, like it plays a mental toll on you in itself, and we have to learn how to prepare. I think those are some big lessons that kind of helped us become more mentally strong, because you shine in 1 week, next week it's like, yo, I'm way better than this dude. Like, how, you know what I'm saying?
And that's another thing too. Nobody wants to tell themselves that they're the problem, right? Like I know I damn sure wasn't ready to do that, because I was definitely the problem when I got my shot and didn't perform. Right? Like I was the problem. Like, and nobody wants to be told that you're not good enough, and you are good, but you're the problem based on how you handle these situations.
Right. You are in your own way.
Yeah. Like nobody wants to be told that.
So I'll give you just. You listen to people sometime. You talk to people sometime, and little things they say can change your life.
Yeah.
And I have a very short, quick story. In college, I was hurt. I was miserable. I had just came off one of the best. Like I think I was battling with this dude. He was smaller than me, not as fast as I was. I was clearly better than him. He started, but we both played like equal amount of time in the game.
Mm-hmm.
I think I might have had like 11 tackles, like 9 solo. Like I was out there flying around.
That's crazy.
He had an interception, so it kind of like balanced it out a little bit. So you know what I'm saying. So he still maintained the starting spot. Next game, I get hurt. Done for the season. I'm tight. I think I was crutching through the football office, and coach, shout out to Coach Funk. Coach Funk, he asked me how I'm doing. He said, "Hey Chief, how you doing?" And I was like, "Could be better, Coach." And he like stopped me, like looked me in my eyes, like, "Could be worse." And I swear to God, that little moment right there, completely changed my thought process for like the rest of my life. Like he was like, "Could be worse," and I'm just like, as simple as it sounds, he was 100% right. You know, and I think we get so caught up in our downfalls or our dark moments or whatever it is that we just don't understand how much worse it could be. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And that really, really, really like completely changed the way I look at things now.
Yeah, it's funny because when you said that, I always take away like, it's typically not like the long-winded, intended to be impactful conversations that happen that impact people the way you want. It's the little subtle shit in passing.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like that's.
So and it's funny you say passing. So let's go back into a little bit of my story with my brother. And it happened in 2009. Simple, random act of violence. It wasn't enough time to justify any of what happened. But without getting too deep into it, when you mentioned in passing, one of the things that really helped pull me out of this depression was recognizing someone had been through a similar thing. Sharon Locke. I don't know if you remember Sharon Locke.
I do remember.
Shout out to Sharon Locke. Sharon Locke had just lost her husband. I had been out of school for like 3 months, and I think maybe like a week or two before I went back, Sharon lost her husband. And I remember walking, like she obviously knew my story, and I'm walking in the hall and I see her and she sees me and I see her see me. And she asked me how I was doing. And for those of you who don't know, anytime someone in your circle has lost someone or is dealing with a loss like that, how are you doing is probably one of the most difficult questions to answer, to hear. And I implore you to kind of, how you feeling maybe, or I can't remember what it was now, but I have something I use now, and it's kind of like, how's it going, or you know, how you holding up. I think how you holding up is one of them things, rather than how are you doing, because like when every time I heard that question and dealing with that, it was terrible. But hearing it from her when she said how are you doing, I looked at her like we locked eyes for like that awkward like 5-second stare. No words were said. We just locked eyes and kind of nodded our heads and kept walking. But Belle, when I tell you, like in passing, you said like that conversation, that 5-second conversation was so powerful to me, fam.
Does she know that?
Yeah, I put it in my play. Remember, I put it in the play, and I called her out in the play. But that was like a moment for me where someone knew exactly how I was feeling and spoke to me in a way only people in the midst of that can understand.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it's not often that we find ourselves sharing depression, if you will.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So to have someone, I don't want to say it's misery loves company, because that's not what it is, but like to find someone who has dealt
a common bond,
right, or who is dealing with something
Yeah.
you're dealing with, and using them to either propel yourselves together forward or take lessons from what they've gone through and pull you up was monumental for me, fam. Like monumental.
So obviously you were mourning, right? Obviously it was a tragedy, but did you know, like, you were in like a depressive state?
No, and you know what? That's the crazy part about it. So with the tragedy, with the sadness that came with it, it wasn't labeled depression for me until I found out I was having MJ.
What did you think it was?
Sadness. I called it sadness.
Yeah, I had different adjectives.
Yeah,
make
I
us
called
feel
it
better.
sadness, mourning, but it was like a 2-year depression, fam. Like I was in like I told you the other day, the concert going to, cried the whole time. Like I barely left the house.
So what was it about MJ coming that made you identify it then as depression?
It wasn't necessarily that was the identifying factor, but that was my reason. Like you, homeboy, getting hurt and you getting a second chance was your reason to kind of like
snap out of it.
Like for me, it was kind of like, yo, I like.
So when you snapped out of it, you were like, damn, I was in a deep, dark place that had to be depression.
It was like, yo, you were in a bad spot. I remember the feeling, like it was like an instant. So this was when after my brother had passed, maybe like a year, close to a year later, I was like, yo, I have to do something. So I took my mother and my brother. I took 2 weeks off of work. We jumped in a car. It was right before I took a week off. It was right before going back to school. And we had just drove. Remember, I took my mom and Duck, and we just drove. We went down south. We went to see family and whatever. We just kind of get away and kind of spend some time bonding. And that was kind of like the start of my therapy to get myself back. And while I'm down there, Marie sends me a picture of the
ultrasound or sonogram?
The pregnancy test.
The
positive pregnancy test. And Belle, when I tell you, like I'm looking at it, and you when you watch TV sometime and they do the close up and you see the person's smile develop, you know what I'm saying? Like I felt like my whole face changed and my smile went up, and I remember doing like no bullshit, all jokes aside. I'm at the Lexus dealership in Atlanta, and the dude name is King. Shout out to King. King's helping me look for a car, and I look at the text messages and I'm like, what? And I remember doing the joint from Martin, like whoa, 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 like I'm running through the car dealership, whoa, 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 like I was so fucking happy, bro. And that's what turned the page for me, and it gave me reason to get out of my own way, to get out of the funk. You know what I'm saying? As much as shout out to Marie, my daughter's mom, as much as she put everything in trying to help me be better, it just was nothing that could.
There was nothing she could do.
It was nothing she could do. You know what I'm saying? She was supportive in there, and that was everything I needed.
Right.
But it was nothing. I had to get myself out of this hole. You know what I'm saying? And I think with that information of us having a child, dude, it fucking.
I got a question.
It turned the page. Yeah.
Do you think prior to receiving that text that you didn't have anything to live for?
I definitely felt like there wasn't much to live for. Yeah, I felt like, but again, I didn't know it was depression, but I had nothing left. I mean, I was like merely existing, fam. Like when I tell you it was bad, like I didn't talk to many people. I already didn't go anywhere to begin with.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So then I'm not going nowhere. I'm not doing nothing. Every family function was difficult. I'd spend Christmas, Thanksgiving, and New Year's in the crib by myself. I don't want to be around nobody. It was just, It was bad, man. Like you find a way. Like I saw a meme the other day that said, "You ever notice that when you're in a bad funk and you're crying, you search for songs to make you cry harder?" You know what I'm saying? But as much as that shit is true, when I was in those funks, like I put myself in a situation where it just made it worse. Like rather than being around my family, I chose to be by myself and just
you're wallowing in that point. Yeah,
that's exactly what it was. Wallowing in that that self-pity, the misery, and all that good stuff. And for anyone dealing with a loss like that, it's hard on you, and it's so difficult unless you've like been there yourself. You can't really, as much as you want to empathize, the feeling is completely different. And unfortunately, at some point, we all have to go through it.
Right.
But unless you've gone through it, you don't know what it feels like, yo. Like it's just something totally different, and it took me a while to kind of to pull myself out. And I think, again, having something to live for
Right.
was like it reignited the passion in myself to be like, yo, this is not who you are. You need to do and be better.
Right. Now, do you have any like lead indicators? Or two questions. One, have you been in that place before? And obviously you haven't experienced pain and loss like that since.
Mm-hmm.
But have you found yourself in a state where you're like, this could be depression?
Honestly speaking, since then, Bell, I don't think I've been too. I don't think I've gone there because I've trained myself. Like you know, like in the midst of adversity now, I'm like the most cool, calm, and collected cat there is. And I was telling somebody the story just yesterday. Like my cousin was making something in the oven one day, and it was got like, on fire. Like the oven was on like literal flames. Mm-hmm. And I was like, "Hey, Nikki, oven's on fire." And she came in the kitchen and was like, "Oh my God, why are you so calm?" Blah 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 blah. And it's like in my head, I'm like, okay, oven's on fire. There's a fire extinguisher over there. Let's get it. Let's put it out and keep it. And I'm not like, I don't even really respond like that anymore.
There's also levels. You know what I'm saying? Like you and I'm not going to speak for you, but I'm imagining there's nothing that can compare to what you already went through. So anything like to the point, it could always be worse, right?
Right.
If it doesn't reach remotely close to that, there's no need to exert that emotion or energy.
And I think even with the way I've built myself up now, if God forbid something like that was ever to come back across my path, I know now that it doesn't go away, that it's always going to be there, but I can be better, I can do better, I can push through. So it's like, you take your time, take your moment, and deal with it. Take the week that you take, you know what I'm saying? Deal with it, and then keep pushing.
Right.
Like you're allowed to give yourself that space to wallow in your pain.
We're human,
right?
People, like, we got feelings. You touch me or hurt me, hit me, I'm gonna hurt, right?
Right.
Like, it is what it is. I think, man, like I keep wanting to say my next episode, but I guess it is kind of an episode of a depressive episode that I experienced. I think I got so. I think, well, one, I was depressed, and I'll do my best to give you an abbreviated story. Like we mentioned, Chief and I, our first real jobs, our first career jobs out of college, were working together as deans at the high school. And during that,
side note, I really think that's insane. Like, there was no, like, this. We've been boys forever,
right?
You know what I'm saying? And as much as we have, like, what's crazy is we're probably not anymore now because I got some pounds on me. But we at once were like the exact same size, like wore the same size sneakers, same size clothes. Like, it was crazy. But we had the same job at one point with no intention on having the same job. Like, with different career paths in mind. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's probably the same, similar career paths at that time.
Right. Yeah. But I think it's just it's a testament to the bond that we have, and I think people, you need to get some good friends, and that like for real, you need to get some good friends, and I say that just because I have a crew, I have some immediates, man, who are like an essential part of who I am as a man, and I think it's the commonalities that we share. I don't think we've had like the open discussion on. Well, not that we have to, because we know, but like the people don't really understand how tight our bond really is. You know what I'm saying? It's not like just two dudes who want to talk about a podcast. We have a sincere, long, extended history of shit. Like, you know what I mean? So, nevertheless, go ahead.
No, all good. So yeah, I got out of college, and NFL didn't work out, so I'm working, right? And and again, I don't gotta spend a lot of time on that. Like, that was what it was, right? I had an agent, moved out to New Jersey, trained for 3 months, didn't get picked up. Was what it was. Came back home, started working, right? Because I gotta earn. And while I was working, I started talking to my friends that were in the league, and just about money and just like general concepts and things like that. And I got interested, so I started a career in financial services, and I started that kind of moonlighting in the evening as I was working at the high school. And what I realized was I could make more money, substantially more money in financial services, because I'm getting paid based on my effort, right? Which translated very well with me, just like football did, right? You do well, you play, right? That's kind of how it works. So I started to see an end where I'm like, shit, I can make this type of money. I can make NFL money being self-employed. So I did that for 3 years, like moonlighting, right? And I told my mom when I go to the league, I'm gonna buy her a house. So, you know, my mom, one of the things growing up, we always lived in apartments, always rented, and we never had 2 bathrooms, ever. It was my sister, myself, my mom, my mom, my brother, and my dad. So it was 5 of us in the house, and it was rough. Like in the beginning, we had a 2-bedroom house. My parents slept in the living room. My brother and I shared a room. Slept. Slept in the living room. Yeah, shit. Slept in the living room. Go ahead at that. Slept in the living room.
No, we not. We leave that in there.
And my brother and I had a room, and then my sister had a room. So, you know, we couldn't really bring people over because, you know, the common area was literally their bedroom. Long story short, I held on to that promise, and I did buy her house. I did that based on my income from New Britain High, and my income in financial services. So then, fast forward, September 2008, I'm like, well, if I'm doing this part-time and I'm making sometimes more than I'm making a month at the high school, what can I do if I do go full-time? And if you were an adult in September 08, you know that there was a financial crisis. And I became self-employed at the beginning of that. And I, long story short, ran through my savings and was broke. But nobody knew that, right? Like I didn't get broke until 2009. That's when shit got real. So 2009, the next phase or the next identifiable depression moment for me was when I was about to lose the house because I had no income coming in. Like when I tell you I was hustling, and I think we may make that an episode. Like I was selling cigarettes. Like my dad was selling Jordans. Like it was rough. Like it was crazy. And the crazy thing is, my friends didn't know. Like they didn't know. My car got repossessed. Like it was crazy, and nobody really knew. You know, like nobody really knew at all because one, I was embarrassed, right? Like everybody told me not to leave the job. It's a good job. Why would you leave? You're getting paid well. Why would you leave? You know, I'm probably making at the time 43,000. You know, no more than 45, I would imagine. And I'm 23 years old. At the time, I was probably 26. Anyway, I'm like, well, I can't go back and ask for my job back, even though it was offered to me. I'm like, that'd be dumb because now I'll be back in the same situation, and for that I should have just stayed. So it's like I felt like I didn't have anywhere to go, right? I didn't want to talk to somebody about it because I was basically focused on making what I sought out to make or do work. So because if I would have went to anybody, that's how I felt at the time. If I would have went to anybody and said, yo, I'm broke, they would have said, well, you need to go back to the high school. And I'm like, the moment I would have said, no, I'm not, they're like, well, you're dumb, right? So I didn't want to deal with that I guess, pushback. So I just kept thugging it out. And I was, you know, selling cigarettes to put gas in my car, and to eat. My parents didn't know what was going on, you know what I mean? And like I said, I was behind and there was nothing I could do. And then I got an opportunity I saw a company, which ended up being a company I'm working for now, and I applied. And during that time, if you guys remember, like I'm behind in my mortgage, so I got all these companies calling me trying to help me. It was like, yeah, we can get you a modification, but we need $5,000. I'm like, bitch, I don't got $5,000. I have $5,000, we wouldn't be in the situation.
What are you talking about?
So I'm like, yo, and then I would get so excited. I'm like, yo, this is crazy. Like, I'm really about to lose the first house my mom's ever had. I'm like, this is crazy. So that's when I just got focused, and my mom had said to me, she was like, she never questioned any of my decisions. She was like, this one time, and she probably don't even remember this, she was like, I think you might want to go look for a job. And it was that moment where I felt like I had permission to basically abandon what I was doing and go get a job. So from that point on, at that moment, I shifted into the second chance bell from college.
Right.
So what I used to do.
Shout out to G-Ma. See, that's what I mean. It's little shit like that.
Yeah, that's what it was.
The real little
She
shit.
probably don't even know that.
Right. She do now.
Yeah, it's crazy because she called me on my way here. She was drinking, y'all. She was like, make sure you shout me out.
Well, there it goes.
Chief always shouting Peaches out. Like, we talk about Peaches, she was drug dealer. Like, that's why we talk about Peaches.
That's funny as hell.
But anyway, so yeah, she said that. So then what I did is I was like, you know what? I'm going to be ready. Like, when my shot comes, I'm going to be ready. So I used to literally ride my bike for hours at night. I don't know how many miles it was, but for hours, because my mindset was I got to be in shape. I got to get my mind right. I got to start focusing. I started reading, right? Like, I was doing a lot of self-development at that time. I was doing anything, guys, to get the edge. Like, that was where my mind went. Mind you, I'm broke, but I'm doing anything to get the edge. And nobody else around me knows. I'm getting by, right? We are very prideful people, and I think a lot of times we mask a lot of our hurt because we don't want to appear weak. And at minimum, for me, that's what it was for me at the time. I don't want to appear like a failure. So like I said, I'm out here making things happen. But what I did, I would work out at night so nobody saw me. I would just ride my bike. Then I would wake up in the morning. Before I went to sleep, I read 10 pages, because if you read 10 pages a day, in most books, you'll finish them in 30 days. So I would read 10 pages of a self-development book every night before I went to sleep. And when I woke up, I had a routine. This was every day, y'all. I woke up, I would literally turn Flowetry on. Like one of the songs that you had recommended a long time ago. And then I read somewhere that you should read an inspirational book, like an autobiography. So before I left the house, or I wouldn't leave the house, but when I woke up, I'll read 10 pages of an autobiography. And then I would get dressed like I'm going to the office, and I would sit on the computer and it's apply for jobs. I applied for jobs till lunchtime, took a lunch break, went back. And I did that 5 days a week. And I was just going, trying to make it happen. Because once I got permission, I'm like, all right, I got a chance now. They gave me permission. It was my mom. I'm like, I'm going to make it happen.
G-Ma probably going to cry.
Oh, she definitely going to cry. So then I made my way out. You know what I'm saying? I made my way out. My company gave me a chance, and I've been there for 10 years. And it was crazy because it was a depressing time. Like, I'm talking, like, mind you, I had a daughter that I had custody of, y'all. Like, let's not forget that. And I had a whole house that I was responsible for. And they weren't paying the mortgage at the time. That was on me. Like, that's what I told her. I'm like, I got this for y'all, I'll take care of it. So that's why the pressure sometimes, it piles so high that we just stay in it because we feel like if we step out of it, everything's gonna come to pieces. Yeah. Right? At least that's how it felt for me. But when I got that nod from my mom, I'm like, okay, now I can go. You know what I'm saying? So those are the two times I dealt with it.
I like the way you put, like, so that I just had like a movie moment right now. You just put the pressure back in there, like, you know, like the movie starts. Yeah. You know, at some point in the movie title comes in. I see what you did there. Yeah. That was pretty slick. First of all, let me start with this. I didn't find this out until after the fact, after everything was basically back to normal. So I'm a little.
I mean, man, you didn't find this out, bro, till probably like.
No.
Literally 2015, you probably didn't.
What I'm telling you is, I didn't find this out because obviously you're right, you didn't tell the fellas. And I'm a little low-key upset that you didn't lean on your boy. One, because at that time, I was single with no kids.
Yeah.
Not doing nothing. Had a little bit of bread saved up in addition to, what happened.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that, like, I'm a little offended that you didn't lean on your boy. You need to lower your guard and let your pride down and ask people for help when you need it.
Right.
Message for you all. Like, don't be so prideful because you have friends who will support you and kindly do what it is that you need to get done in the moment to help assist you in becoming the best version of yourself.
I will say that like, I did get help in different places during that time, but I never asked for it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
right. Okay.
It was somebody that may have been like aware of the situation and they helped me out a little bit.
Why the fuck was they aware and I wasn't aware? That's the problem for me.
I don't remember how it.
Well, apparently we're not as good as friends as I thought.
No, it was a situation where it might have been timing. You know what I'm saying? Like it might have been timing, because that wasn't something I was willing to share. And the crazy shit is, one of my mentors was saying, it's like, Bell, if there's ever a time to appear financially irresponsible, it's now. Like, the world is in a crisis, right? There's a financial crisis. Like, no one has money. Everybody's trying to figure it out. They're bailing these big companies out. Like, if you're behind on your mortgage, you're gonna need some help. You know what I'm saying? But I was too prideful, and I wasn't trying to rationalize that thought.
So there's an acknowledgement right there, fellas. Pride will kill you every time, especially when you have people in your circle that are willing to help, and all you got to do is speak up.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, you had money.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
So
But that's the thing. You still worked at the high school. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it was like,
I still work at the high school.
No, I know. Right. But for me, I was like, man, I go to this dude. He and not that this was like a conscious thought, or it was definitely subconscious. I was just like, man, the first thing people gonna say is they told you not to leave. You know what I'm saying? Like that was where my mind went. And obviously, there's bigger fish to fry.
Fuck that. Let's be clear right here on camera, on record. You name a time in your existence of our friendship where I've judged you.
No, but we make up stories, bro. We build out, like you said, right? Same thing what you said when you cry and you find a song to make you cry more. Mm-hmm. I built a narrative to make my situation worse.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Like that, and that was it. There was no like evidence to support some of the shit that I was feeling, but it was just how I felt. And it was more so like I held myself to this level. I didn't meet it. I failed. Right. Why am I putting my failure on you? You know what I'm saying?
That makes sense.
That was my thought process. But the crazy thing is, one of us did get in a jam later on, and fortunately they did reach out, and I was able to put them in, and help them out, and it was nothing. And I'm like, shit, it was simple as that. Right. Like, and I was pissed at him when I'm like, why didn't you ask sooner?
Why did you ask me sooner? Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm like, this is, like at the time I was in a really good place. I'm like, there's no need for you to stress over this money when you got people around you that can help you.
I'll tell y'all right now. Every now and then when I, waiting for a check to come or don't want to dig into a certain account or tap in here, I'm like, hey, yo, Bell, cash out me a couple dollars till Tuesday. Let me hold $5 till Tuesday. Like, it's nothing. I'm not afraid to lean on my friends because that's what they're there for. And if you don't help me out, then you ain't my real friend anyway. You know what I'm saying? Unless you're in a situation where you can't give it to me. And I understand. And again, all you can do is say no. But all right, well, I'll figure it out. And that's my line anyway. I'll figure this shit out anyway, regardless. So, so with that, I don't think there's any more on my end, and we're in terms of like a serious depression. Again, there's things that happen like that come about that put you in a bad spot. Like one of the homies crashed my car years ago. Just got the joint, brand new Yukon Denali, and crashed it. And my response was like, "Oh, so you good? All right, I'll figure it out."
Yeah, not only did he crash, he totaled that bitch. Yeah, like, wasn't no coming back for that.
Right. So again, and this is a testament to how I built myself up. That's when I was going to school. I would like call one of the homies to drop me off at school, and would walk back from Central.
I remember.
You know what I'm saying? Would walk home. I wouldn't even like. It was just one of the things where you got to do what you got to do, and there's no need to no crying over
spilled milk. Get him up. Right.
No crying over spilled milk. You know what I'm saying? And it's just the way I've conditioned myself to live life, man. I've really found a way, and I wear these bands, Bell. I wear these bands everywhere I go, and I have a band with 2 messages on it from college. We had 2 rules in college, and it was do right and overcome adversity. And I wear these bands, and I give them out at my shows when I perform. I sell them or give them out to the kids. And in reality is, at the end of the day, if I ask you, did you do right, and you say no, then you broke rule number 1. Rule number 2, coach used to always be like, overcome adversity. Life is gonna happen, and we gotta find a way to figure it out. He always say, like, if we find a way to the game and the bus break down, let's grab our bag and start walking. Like, what the fuck are you crying for?
One of the things that came up in that group chat this morning is we was in spring ball, and we're in Connecticut, y'all, and sometimes spring don't start when it's supposed to start.
Damn sure don't start when it's supposed to start.
And spring ball, one of the first practices, it was snowing. We literally got in the line and shoveled the turf field. He had to shovel the turf field. I was in Texas when I'm like, where the hell you get all them shovels from? Like 85 shovels, bro? I'm like, this is crazy. But one thing I want to say to everybody, guys, you have to understand that your moments are your moments, right? Like, part of the reason why I didn't mention anything on either time when I was going through what I was going through, because I felt like they were insignificant in the grand scheme of things, right? Nobody can tell you how to feel, right? If there's something that I perceive as small to you or small that you shouldn't feel that way, that is not justified, right? Like, I can't tell you how to feel. If it doesn't matter what happens to you, you're gonna internalize it how you internalize it, right? So we can't be careful, like, minimizing things. Like, I don't want to bring this up because it's not that big of a deal. Hey, guess what? You may not think it's a big deal to me, but it's a big deal to you. So that's all that matters.
And if you have that type of bond, a big deal to you ultimately becomes a big deal to me.
And also, guys, like, I know, like, true, genuine friendships are probably a lot more challenging than we make them seem, but there's always professionals, right? There's professionals that you can go talk to. You know, like, if I wasn't his therapist, he'd be probably seeing a professional. He's just fortunate that I've known him for so long. I give him a family discount.
Nah, but there's definitely, we have to. So, if I can give you a final thought from my own, I think I took a lot of points from today, and it's we gotta, one, learn to get out of our own way. We have to, because oftentimes we are the ones holding ourselves back of fear, of judgment, of ridicule, whatever you want to call it. We do that. Two, do not be afraid to take your time with certain things and deal with those how you may, but understand when enough is enough.
Right.
When you have to kind of find your way out. For me, 2 years was way too long. Way too long. You know what I'm saying? And don't be afraid to talk to somebody, to ask questions, to ask for help, whether it be monetary or just emotional support or whatever the case may be. Don't be afraid. But I guess with saying that, do so with someone you trust. Or a complete stranger, like you said. Seek help where you have no ties to them. So them knowing your business.
And because of HIPAA laws, they can't speak about what you talked about.
And if you fight, you can just beat them up anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like that always.
Yeah, so I'm just listening to us, man, and I'm like, we've been through some shit that's gotten us to where we are here today to assess. But there may be people going through stuff right now.
Right.
So they haven't gone through it to get the lesson yet. You know what I'm saying? They're in it right now. You know, they say you can't see the picture when you're in the frame. It's like, so for those people, understand that if you feel like something's off, you feel like you're not yourself, there's probably some validity to that. And whatever that means is whatever that means, right? Just understand that if you're feeling something, it's valid, right? It would warrant a conversation to whomever you want to have it with, whoever you feel comfortable with. We don't have to qualify your feelings.
Right. Like, this isn't a type A type situation where it needs to be brought to my attention. No matter where it ranks on the scale,
right.
If it makes you feel a certain way,
right,
then it's probably be something that you should look into addressing. Just for the sake of bettering yourself.
I think that's good for two final thoughts.
No, I think so
good
too.
Good job giving your first final thought.
No doubt. I mean, it's crazy how we put this together and kind of like, you know, let it take its course and it's develop where you always end up giving. I do the intro and you do the final thought, and it's just how it's been working. But I think I pulled a lot from this in terms of not being scripted and actually just letting the conversation flow.
Don't try to make all the episodes just off the hip.
No, it's not. We're not doing that. Speaking of episode off.
Oh yeah, good point.
Our next episode we're gonna do Tuesday. Let's do Tuesday, so we can
why not Wednesday?
So we can have it ready for Wednesday.
Oh, true.
So Tuesday night, 7.
Yeah, 7.
Tuesday night, 7:00. We are going to go Facebook and Instagram live and do a Q&A, an open session. We've decided that we're going to close season 1 with 12 episodes. That'll be episode 11, and then episode 12 will be...
And we'll announce...
special.
Yeah, we'll announce that next week, what episode 12 is.
What episode 12 will be, and it'll be special to us, and then...
So what we want, guys, we want you to tune in, obviously, live. If you go to our Instagram at All Black Men Need Therapy on IG, we put a question box up. Let us know what topics you want us to talk about. We're going to have topics ready to talk about, and but I would love to hear from you all, and as we address them, you can address us in real time.
In real time. And I think that'll be dope. We did an impromptu joint a couple weeks ago, and it worked out. We plan on going there for like 10 minutes just talking about why we canceled an episode. Speaking of that, we got to get back to that. We'll start next season with that one.
Yeah.
But we appreciate your support. If you do have some, questions, comments, complaints, or concerns, hit us up. allblackmenneedtherapy at Gmail. Find us on all social media platforms. All Black Men Need Therapy.
Yeah, inboxes. DM us too. Like if email's not your thing, DM us questions, DM us comments. Like we'll take it all, guys. Like we like we said, Chief and I just jumped off the porch and did this, and I found it very therapeutic. Right, like this episode was great for me, and it sounds like it was great for Chief as well. So we appreciate all the support, guys.
Yes. And
let us know, like I said, next week on the 25th.
25th.
Tuesday the 25th.
Tuesday the 25th.
We'll be live.
7 p.m. We will be live. So with that being said, we appreciate y'all for tuning in. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Let's help us build our brand.
If you like it, guys, subscribe to the podcast.
Leave comments too. We get like ratings and shit from when people leave comments.
Leave comments.
Good, bad, or indifferent. You know what I'm saying?
Screenshot us on IG. Or
share some shit.
Share some shit. Yeah.
Whatever. With that being said, y'all, thanks for tuning in. Do us all a favor and hug a black man today, and tomorrow. We out.
Peace.